Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Shaman's Way. I want to say thank you for listening yet again. We are certainly climbing up in the number of podcasts that we've shared together, and I simply am still surprised that it's been over 2 years of doing the work, and goodness sakes, it sure doesn't feel that way. And it still feels like that we're just in the beginning of a friendship, just in the beginning of our journey together. So I really wanted to come back down to the basics for today, and I wanted to talk to you about the element earth and north on the medicine wheel that I use, which is sun bears. So earth is the element that we are closest to home with, since, basically it is our home. Earth doesn't necessarily represent the physical earth, but that part of it which is stable, solid, and dependable. Earth is the foundation of the elements. It's the base. I don't have to tell you, that's pretty self-explanatory in many ways. However, this is the realm that most of us live, at least a very good part of our life. So when we walk or we sit, stand, crawl, eat, sleep, work our jobs, tend our plants, balance our bank accounts, all of those things, this is really within that realm of the physical earth. While it is the most physical of the elements, this is not negative, for it is upon earth, within earth, that the other elements rest. As we all can possibly know and certainly understand that without earth, life as we know it would not exist. However, there is a whole other conversation that goes, there are countless planets in the universe, and certainly this cannot be the only earth. So would life as we know it exist? Absolutely not, because we only know this earth and its own plane of existence. But could life exist on other places? Why not? It would be off in my world. I think that it is incredibly naive to believe that this is the only place in existence. While we talk about earth and the necessity of it, with my friends who practice magic and witchcraft, Wicca, and some of their things that they've taught me over the years is that earth rules the spells and material objects. We think also of earth as agriculture or health foods, ecology, conservation. These are things that I think about when I think about earth. I also think about antiques because they remind me of age. I think of grandmothers and grandfathers. The earth is that time. I often visit the memories of earth through museums, or many of us have visited sacred sites or interesting sites in different parts of the world if we've been fortunate enough to do that. Construction and progress, these aspects are associated also with earth. Earth continuously changes. Any of us who've been farmers, especially in Alberta, how every spring you have to go pick rocks. How is it that you have to go pick rocks every year if the earth is not always under construction, always not progressing, and always moving? Everything, even though it seems as though it's not moving, everything is constantly moving and shifting. A ritual of elements could be as simple as burying an object, and this could represent your need. So if I am doing a ceremony where I wish to bury something or transform something, then I would bury something in the earth. And I only use biodegradable or things that I know the earth can take and can sustain. So even in one of my favorite things in the world is coffee, and I have 1 cup of coffee a day. It's my yummy addiction, and for me that's very sacred. So if I need prayers whispered, I would use coffee grounds and whisper my prayers and wrap it in a biodegradable paper, or not even, and just have a little trowel with me and dig a hole, bury the coffee grounds, and ask the earth to manifest or transform. The other aspect of earth in this regard is I use earth in some of my teachings, some of my rituals, for people to bury things in that they need. And I take that soil, that holy sacred soil, and I bury that soil along with all their prayers and their wishes. And I give feathers, or I give shells, or I give stones as what to whisper what you're releasing, and then they bury it in the container of soil that I bring. And the soil that I use is soil from a graveyard, because for me that is some of the most sacred soil. And the reason it's sacred is because it is always prayed over. It is holy land, and it has captured and held so many tears, and it is just, to me, it is such sacred soil. So I generally use sacred soil, and I don't always return the sacred soil to the cemetery, because I like to spread the soil of sacredness in the prayers, and I don't want to mix the two up. So that's an aspect of how I would use the element of earth, and how I would bury things or ask the earth to transform things or grow things for me. And another way of working with earth is walking over miles of countryside where I've visualized what I needed. And walking meditation is long been practiced, even though I know that from a Buddhist perspective, walking meditation is a silence of a mind, where in this perspective, we're doing a walking meditation to plant a seed, or to manifest a seed, or to manifest or even create a thought. Sometimes walking and thinking are very good sources to nurture or to percolate ideas. If you're visualizing, drawing an image even in the dirt, some represent that, earth is a feminine element. It's nurturing. It can be moist. It can be fruitful. And these are the qualities which make it feminine. Some, we've heard the word, the mother goddess, the all fertile creatrix, that aspect of it. And I want to also say that earth, in how we're discussing it, this would be the north part of the medicine wheel. This is not the same earth that we have in the center of the medicine wheel, where we have the 8 stones. So we have the creator, and we have Mother Earth, and that is a different relationship. That is the all-encompassing energy of Mother Earth, that all-encompassing energy of how chaos, because we come from the creator, which is chaos, and then from chaos there is creation of creation. And that is the Mother Earth. So the element earth is this physical element with spiritual aspects. And many call this the great goddess or the great mother living on the earth. But I want to make the distinction in the medicine wheel. These are different stones. The stone in the center of the medicine wheel that represents Mother Earth is tortoise, which is long living, lives on earth, doesn't generally live in the water. Only one tortoise lives in the water. Where we have in the north, we have turtle as being the element of earth in that center of the medicine wheel. So we have those 8 stones. One is earth, which is turtle, but Mother Earth is tortoise. So when we're talking about earth in this regard, I'm talking about that element of earth, not the totem of earth. So the totem of earth, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Let's get it back, Cricket. So, oftentimes the color of north can really, on the medicine wheel that I work with, it's supposed to be white, but I often also represent it as black. Sometimes I represent it with a really, really deep violet. These are very creative white because I live in Canada and it's, we're the north, and by golly, we have a lot of snow. So it is white. And white also is that representative of, that snow on the roof, that gray hair. But it also represents, if you've taken photographs or live up north or seen, northern areas, not only in the Northwest Territories or Yukon, but into Siberia, northern Finland. Some of the other, those are definitely representations of cold and north as well. There are, this is the colors that are generally associated with it. Some of the plants that we have are fern, mandrake, patchouli, cedar, pine, sage, jasmine, slippery elm, cypress. These are some of the things that are some of the plants that are associated with north. So north is Waboose, and that is the spirit keeper of the north on the medicine wheel. And the mineral for the spirit keeper of the north is alabaster. The plant generally associated on the medicine wheel with it is sweetgrass. That's the primary plant. It is also the spirit keeper is the white buffalo, and it is associated with white. The season is winter. The time of day is midnight, and the time of life is both when we're elders, like I mentioned, with the snow on the top of our heads, but it is also that place in between where we have that life-death life cycle. This is that place between death and life. This is that sojourn. This is the darkest of the dark. This is the element of earth in the north represents that ability to transform and change. The moons that are associated with the quadrant of the north are the Earth Renewal Moon, which runs from December to January, and the spirit keeper for that is Snow Goose. We have the Rest and Cleansing Moon, which runs from January to February, and the spirit for that is Otter. And then the third moon that we have is the Big Wind Spoon from February to March, and the spirit for that one is the Cougar. North for me is one of the most paradoxical times on the wheel. It is the time when things seem to be sleeping, yet within this apparent dormancy, some of the deepest growth is occurring. I read this on a wall at a friend's house, that roots are flowers that are blooming in the dark. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. It is the time when the seeds lie frozen within the earth, that they take into themselves all of the earth's energy that allows them to grow in the seasons that follow. It is in the north that our bodies cannot move as easily as they have in the past or will in the future. That we seem forced to take into ourselves the wisdom of the spirit we will use as we continue our journey around the medicine wheel. The time of Waboose is the time of slowing down, of apparent restriction, when outward activity definitely diminishes. It is a time of darkness, quiet, and dreams. It is a time when humans are fragile, when our skin is wrinkled, resembling the soil and the face of the Earth Mother herself. It's a time when we as people, we reminisce, and from our reminiscences, we share the wisdom that we've gained. It's a time for assessing accomplishments and aims. What about preparing for that, that beginning time of East, that time of birth, and the time of West, that time of sojourn of the ancestor into the darkness? It's a time when many people have come to an understanding of their own life and acceptance of what they have or have not achieved. It can be a time of peace and a time of power. It can be a time of forgiveness and compassion for all around you. if we're north on the wheel, or if we're here in this place, it's a time to give up an old pattern, surrender to the small changes of body and mind. So this is as we age, if we use the medicine wheel as a lifelong projection, we can use it yearly as well. I've talked about that on more than one occasion. So these are just some of the aspects that are associated with Waboos, some of the associated with North and with Earth. So Waboos is the time of both ending and beginning, as we talked about before, of life and death, and of new life, that is cloaked in apparent death. In the winter, the earth appears dead, but there is so much happening inside. The same is true in our lives. Even when we shed our human skin, our spirit, our energy, it goes to a place, and in some belief structures it prepares us for a new beginning that will come, and in some belief structures it sojourns forever and never returns. I'm not sure where you come from, but from my perspective it is a wheel. So it is that life, death, life, life, death, life, life, death, life, or life, living, death, rebirth, that the four aspects of it. I really like to use a time of North as that time of the giveaway. And one day I will be considered an elder, and maybe I am already to some. As an elder, it will be my responsibility to give away to the people the knowledge that I've gained. And it will be my responsibility to impart to my family what I've learned as I've journeyed around the medicine wheel. It will be my responsibility ultimately to give away my body to Mother Earth, who has fed me all the time that I have walked with her. When I was an infant, I readily gave away all of my love that I had gained in the worlds between, knowing then that the more I gave, the more I would have available. And that is really a very powerful lesson of North, that as small children, we really come from this place of eternal love. We come from this place of expansiveness and non-restriction. And that is, I think, one of the benefits or one of the beauties of children, is that never-ending unconditional love. It is intuitive understanding also that I think of as North. As we age, many of us are very intuitive. As you walk on any path, your intuition will grow. And I associate intuition with North because I also associate mystery with North and mystery with Earth. The reason that I think about it in that regard is that the psychic abilities that we have also come with giving up and learning into our dreams, giving over to our visions, both my own self and the visions of the people that are around me. So my friends, my family, my students, these are some of the visions that I've coming. So as we move along our path, we will begin to certainly increase our intuition, and we become more alert and more aware. North is that time in our wisdom, in our agedness, when we can view back to west, south, and east and reflect upon what we have or have not learned. What we remember is far less than everything we've accumulated, but hopefully by the time we get to Earth, or by the time we get to North, we have been able to accumulate and integrate the knowledge and can now give forward and move it into wisdom. Earth is also the place of gestation. It is the place of some of the deepest, darkest. If you are a caver, you know that the deeper you go, it is astounding how the darkness fills every fiber. I was traveling a couple of years ago, and I was fortunate enough to go deep inside one of the mountains in Vietnam, and I was with a very small group. We were in quite a high cavern. There was quite a high ceiling to it, and we had turned off our lights. just to feel the silence and the darkness. And I tell you, I think that is one of the things I love the most about doing spelunking or caving, is that absolute stillness and darkness. It just nourishes my soul. However, what I really loved was somewhere deep inside that cave, there was a spirit that dwelled that had a song. And it took some courage for me to sing in, first of all, a language that nobody will understand because it's the language of the cave. And I was so grateful to the spirit of earth and to the spirit of that cave for sharing their song with me. It filled the cavern, and the sounds coming out of my voice, or the sounds that I was making, were very different from sounds that I've sung when the trees have given me a song to sing, or earth by water has given me a song to sing. This was by far one of the most unique songs that Spirit had ever shared with me. So that is an element of earth as well, and that intuitive mystery. Would I have been able to hear that song 25 years ago? Likely not. Would I have had the courage, even 15 years ago to sing in a weird time, in a weird place with a bunch of people who don't know me? Perhaps not. But after having this many years on the path and developing an absolute love affair with Spirit, and that being, my beloved in that sense, that it is such an honor to be able to receive a gift and to yoik the song of the spirits. It is a very blessing, and that is one of the things that I take away from North, is that experience in the deepness, in the darkness, in the mystery of the earth, and how I think that the caves are very reminiscent of that mystery. And the mystical abilities, the longer you walk on your path and the older you become, they really do progress beyond what is considered to be average. So one of the things I like to do and remind myself with North is to ground myself, remembering that I am both a being of the earth as well as the sky. And one of the paradoxes of Waboos is that while it is a time of intuition and mystical abilities, it also governs the physical level of life, both how we relate to our bodies and how we relate to the world around us. While our mind wanders through the skies or through the spirit worlds, and we see and experience lots of different things, we must also learn that we need to take care of our body here on earth. However you do take care of your body, remember, this is your only ride. This body is your only ride. And whatever you do with it, ultimately, in the end, that's how we are going to transition. So this is also a time of physical healing, the place where we come to give thanks for healing that has occurred. And we come to the North, we come to ask for earth, to ask for healing that's needed for ourselves and for others. So we pledge ourselves to the ancestors, those who live in the North. When we pray that we survive through something, I think of us as praying to the beings of North. I mean, if you want, there are obviously prayers to East, South, North, West. I mean, they're all prayers to all of them and their ancestors and all of them. But I beseech the ancestors in the North, as I have it, I see them as a different reality or a different group of beings than I would see in the East, the South, or the West. Obviously, right? When we are practicing in the urban world, how do we find earth? And one of the journeys that I've shared with groups over the years is to remind them that earth is solid and manifested. So this could be considered to be the physical aspect of our existence. And pathways are associated with earth. Pathways lead animals around the forest. Pathways lead humans through the maze of buildings. So the pathways in the city are called sidewalks. And If you're in even a bigger city and if it's cold, there might even be pedways. So, and those are above ground and below ground. And I'm sure in other cities that I've never been to, they have pedways that I can't even fathom. I think that reminding yourself that there are important relationships between you and between the spirit of earth I think it's important. Each element and direction teaches me discipline in another way. East encouraged me to hold on to my dreams. So when I come out of the death and I come back into life, so I'm coming out of north and I'm coming into east on the medicine wheel, I come with a certain number of dreams. I come with some ideas of what I wish to perceive. And so when I started on my journey through shamanism, I started in the East, and it was very airy, it was very dreamy, it was the deer. So my first pathway was East, and it taught me to see my dreams. What are my dreams? But it taught me to hold on to my dreams. As we head south on the medicine wheel, so we're coming past the youth and we're coming into our young selves. So south taught me to fight for my dreams. And after I had mastered warrior on the south of the medicine wheel, then I went into west to dream my dreams. We are the dream and we are the dreamer. And when I moved from that percolating, creating new dreams and dreaming my dream and manifesting it, then what happens in the north is that I am taught the discipline to live my dream. So as we move along, each element and each direction really teaches us different ways of moving. Earth is one of the most precious to me because I find my greatest relaxation on the earth. Some people find it in water, some people find it climbing mountains and leaning into the wind on top of mountains, and some people are fire watchers, and all of those are really important elements to build, create, integrate relationships with the world around you. Earth, laying on the earth, watching the sky above me. So here again, we have that. I'm going to ground on the earth while I can still view what goes on above me, because we are sky beings and we are earth beings. And those aspects, those paradoxes of the wheel, one is above, one is below. And earth, as I touched on earlier, and I'm going to touch on again, it is the place of the absolute darkness. It is the place where neither the sun nor the moon ever go. It is the place of Ursa Major. It is the place of the Great Bear. It is the place of the constant dreamer. It is the place of the great mystery. It is the place of the Milky Way. It is the place of the first people. It is the place of the stones. Those are the first people. That's the first nation. And that's associated with North. Alabaster is a beautiful stone. It's a soft stone, and there are some songs that refer to alabaster. Alabaster can also be a color, and sweetgrass associated with the north can be associated with the grandmothers. I know that other traditions place other tobacco in the north, so I think that can change. I don't think that there are things that are necessarily bound or cemented to the element of earth. I think that there are, as the earth is constantly changing and progressing, I think that we have the opportunity to change and to move different things that are going to fill us and fulfill us. Again, I'm going to repeat this because I've talked about this before. That's one of the differences between living in a culture that is traditional, that has very traditional stories. They have a cosmology, a mythology, and a story, and applicable stories and lessons and legends associated with lifestyle, with spirit, with the drum, with dances, with voice, all of those aspects. But there is this tribe of us that are of no tribe. We are of no people because we don't have a tradition. So I think as much as I would like to cling on to a cosmology, a mythology, and a way of being in a traditional culture, that's just not how it's going to work for me. That's just not going to be the reality of this lifetime for me. The reality of this lifetime is I have to go to Spirit and say, hey, how can I teach this? How can I learn about this? And Spirit says, oh, here's how you do this. So how did I get the message that East taught me to hold my dream, or South to fight for my dream, or West to dream my dream, or North to teach me the discipline to live my dream, if I hadn't gone to the spirits and said, whoa, what's up? And in that regard, I created my own skeletal structure with lots of help from elders and books and other things. I'm not saying I am an island unto myself. But where I'm going with this is where I've gone before and where I want to bring us back to, that being a people without a people gives us a certain level of freedom that is kind of edge walking, the freedom to be who you are, but there is that huge legitimate discussion of cultural appropriation and colonialism. Where do we blend this line? Where do we blend this line? If Spirit is the one that has taught me, and then I come back and I read an anthropological text, my favorite is called Shaman, out of called by Molnar Publishing. Anyway, and I read that what Spirit has taught me is a ceremony that an anthropologist has recorded or in writing in the little bits that they can. I don't know how to take that. I don't know how to approach a traditional culture and say, listen, this is something that I learned that Spirit taught me. Am I then assuaged with cultural appropriation? I don't know. I can't be, because it came from the spirit world, didn't come from me, but I don't know. So this is something that I wrestle with in the North, because now I'm old enough and I'm trying to be wiser. And even if you're 22, try to be wiser, or 17, try to be wiser, or 75, try to be wiser. Take what we learn, listen to the voices, the human voices, the spirit voices, the non-corporeal voices, the numinous voices. How do we put our world together in a language that works for us if we are coming from a language and creating it ultimately by ourselves, if we're solitary, if we work on our own, if we are a people from no people? It is, we're living in interesting times from a spiritual perspective and from a spiritual homage, paying homage to different traditions. So I don't have any answers, but these are the things that I'm pondering. I know that we all come from different places, different times, different spaces, and it is truly my hope that we come together with understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and compassion for one another, and that we can share. And this is some of the wisdom that North teaches me. North teaches me to remember my humanity and remember my brothers and sisters. But North also teaches me to live my discipline. And if they give me a lesson, I must live that lesson. And if they give me a gift, I must honor them for the gift they've given me. If they've given me a gift that comes from another culture that I have nothing to do with, then they give me a gift that comes from a culture that I have nothing to do with. I don't know how to always make amends between that, but I leave that up to you, the individual, to continue this conversation with yourself or with your friends, or not continue this conversation. But to at least have an open mind to the types of conversation. We're in interesting times. We are interesting humans. We are on this medicine wheel, this great walk of life. It is going to be a journey, regardless of who you are. It is going to be a trip in a good way. And I thank you for listening to my thoughts. Some of them have wandered. Thank you for your patience in getting me back on task and for sitting with me through this discussion of North on the Medicine Wheel. Thank you for your time. Have a lovely day.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.